Good evening. Good morning is more like it. Welcome to the Kansas City Chiefs Facebook Live. I am here along with Lynn Worthy, with Brooke, Pryor, and off camera, and now on camera, Sam Mellinger. So we just watched the Chiefs play a preseason game that I believe that they won.
Couldn't tell you the score.
I don't know.
Unless I looked at a sheet.
It seems like they won the game. Fourth preseason game is that exciting. The first thing I'm going to talk about are some of the storylines. But first, I wanted to ask Sam how his Chad Henne column went tonight.
It looked good for a series. And then I was like, well, they traded for a cornerback. That sounds more interesting. Can we talk about Chad Henne a little bit?
Yeah, let's do that.
About the cornerback?
Let's ask folks to give us some send questions our way. We'll try to get as many in as we answer as many as we can before about a half hour. I think is our time limit tonight. So
get them in quick.
Get them in and give us some likes and so yeah, Sam, take us through Chad Henne.
Well, when I was driving to the stadium, I thought that Henne was the most interesting thing in this game, just because, like, if the worst happens, right, for the Chiefs and the kid goes down, how screwed are they? And like, I think the answer is not that screwed if it's only a game or two. Like, I think Chad Henne can get you through with a creative coach, obviously some weapons. They might need to score a lot of points now. But he seems like the kind of guy, just a reliable Toyota Camry. Brooke, is that
that's what we're going with?
Okay,
One time I called him a Nissan Altima, and I felt like that was not quite as accurate. I like a Toyota Camry a little bit better.
Yeah. So he just seems like you're not totally screwed if it's just a game.
They've had to do it before, right?
Yeah.
Was it 2 years ago with
Nick Foles?
Yeah, when Alex Smith suffered the head injury, I believe is what it was called.
Lacerated ear.
That's right.
Don't want that.
Good grief.
He slammed his head on the turf in Indianapolis.
But cleared protocol.
That's right. But Nick Foles got him through, a game and a half, right? They finished that game and started the next one, and they got through. They got through that. So you think Chad Henne is? I think he is too. When you think about it, he's the best backup quarterback that Andy Reid's ever had. I mean, he had Chase Daniel for 3 years, and then Foles in 2016, and last year it was Patrick Mahomes who never got to play.
Yeah.
So this is, I don't know if the best, but the most experienced.
Most experienced for sure. I mean, Foles had the 27-2 season in Philadelphia.
Yeah. What am I thinking?
Over here.
That's right.
What's he done since? Nick Foles.
Who? Nick Foles?
I haven't heard much from him.
No.
But he
There's like
Henne,
one thing, but
the arm strength isn't there, right? Like that would be the biggest difference if we saw, went from the kid to the backup. But that's going to be the case, whoever the backup is.
I was going to say, who's
Patrick
the guy,
Mahomes.
Who's the guy that has that same exact arm strength?
I don't know. Matt McGloin aired out that 62-yard pass today. So
the most important thing about Henne, I think, is up top. Is the brain, like the experience, and he was brought in basically to be like Patrick Mahomes' study partner, right? Like to get him through film and just, hey, did you see this? Whatever. That's going to be his most important contribution. And again, that brain allows him to pick up some things in a complicated offense that maybe some other people might struggle with. If it's if it's something torn and Pat's out for a couple months, we may be just looking at next year's draft, but if it's a hamstring or something like that, I feel okay with Chad Henne for a game or two.
I think the biggest thing is probably what you alluded to with the weapons, because he's a Camry, but with some upgrades. You know what I'm saying? I mean, he's got Tyreek Hill, he's got he's got Kareem Hunt, you got Sammy Watkins if he starts catching some balls, and Travis Kelce. So it's not like it's a offense that's built around the quarterback. He goes down and then everything just goes up in flames. It's like, no, I mean, he can, especially like you said, if it's a couple of games. I mean, if it's 3-4 games, you say, okay, he gets you a split over 3-4 games most likely with these guys around him.
Yeah, I think what it does, it would chop off some of what Tyreek Hill does, right? But Tyreek Hill is more than just a deep threat. I think that's easy for a lot of people to miss. But he can do some other things, and they can throw one of those tunnel screens.
Well, yeah,
and that can go 53 yards
you
or whatever.
Get the ball to him in space, and then maybe not 50 yards downfield, but get it to him 5 yards downfield and try and give him some room to take it 50.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll stay on the quarterback theme here. Brooke, what did you see from Matt McGloin and Chase Litton, who we think the Chiefs are going to keep one of those two guys? There was some speculation that maybe the Chiefs only keep Patrick and Chad Henne and create an additional space on the roster for another position player. I still think they're going to keep 3 quarterbacks because that's what he's always done. Mm-hmm. So assuming it's 3, how do you break it down?
I think I told you during the game that going into this, it seemed like Chase Litton was kind of had the edge in the race. They already have the veteran backup. They don't really need 2. So it would make the most sense to bring in a developmental guy like Chase Litton, undrafted free agent, but has done some good things in camp. He has, I think, the right body size to be a good quarterback, and it just seems like he has a much higher ceiling than Matt McGloin, who's been in the league for a couple of years. But then I think that McGloin came out tonight and played really, really well. I mean, he had the touchdown throw to Darrell Williams. He had, obviously, the 62 yards throw to Byron Pringle. And he did in the second quarter with an interception, but I think that was more on Byron Pringle, who just kind of stopped on the route than solely on him. But I think he turned in a performance that I was a little bit surprised by. If we're going to go with the car analogy, I don't really know. Maybe he's like a Honda Fit. Like, there's not a ton of get up and go on it, but like it's serviceable. It's a good car. I test drove one of those. I liked it. And then in the second half, Chase Litton came in, and I thought that it took him a little bit to get going, but he did have 3 field goal drives. He said after the game that he was disappointed that he wasn't able to score a touchdown, but he still put points on the board. I mean, he won the game, and he said, like the first game that he played against the Texans, he had a touchdown throw, but they didn't win the game. And to him, that was the most frustrating thing, is that he was brought in to win, and never mind that it's a preseason game and it doesn't matter. That's what he wants. But I think that my gut still leans toward Litton getting that last spot. But I'm going to go the opposite direction. I know you said you think they're going to keep 3 because they've always kept 3. I think they're going to keep 2, and because Litton's a young guy and I don't think he's going to get poached during the season, I think they put him on the practice squad to keep him around.
Dang.
I know. That's my bold prediction.
That is a bold prediction. Bold prediction. Another bold prediction might have been Byron Pringle had, best game of his preseason, maybe the best game by a wide receiver in the preseason. Mm-hmm. Long touchdown, not a touchdown, but a long reception, and made some other catches, and then blows out is probably too strong a term, but injures his hamstring late. What a misfortunate moment for him. What did so we didn't get to talk to him, of course. Injured guy, Chiefs rules, you don't talk to injured guys. They're not made available. But what did you make of Pringle's night?
Can I say real quick, Peter Alden asked, was this a legitimate injury or one of the Chiefs' famed training camp injuries? And this one was legit. Do we all agree on that?
He was like pulled
right. He was legitimate.
It wasn't the Tyler Bray finger injury.
Yes, out for the season. Pinky.
But anyway, it was a legit hamstring injury. He had like we said, he had the 62-yard big catch to set up the touchdown
from McGloin, I think. Right, that was from McGloin.
He starts off the second half with a 47-yard kickoff return. Then he had I think it was 40-yard reception from Litton. And on that play is when he pulled up. Coming into this game, I think he had 2 receptions in the preseason for like 25 yards, something like that. So, one catch, he like tripled that.
He's averaging 30.5 yards per catch tonight.
Yeah, so,
Casual.
After having really not, and this is a guy who at, K-State had been a big play guy and the, all-purpose guy, returns, passing game, and he really hasn't translated. And then so finally you get that last preseason game, undrafted rookie, it's like, okay, try and make an impression, and he does. And then, the third quarter, hamstring. He might have had another couple of catches, maybe another big, maybe gets in the end zone, but
yeah, so we don't know the severity of the injury. We'll know tomorrow or later today, to be more accurate. When we talk to Andy Reid in about 11 hours, we'll know more about it. But I mean, for an undrafted, rookie free agent to suffer this injury in the second half of the fourth preseason game, he just put some great highlights on tape. Whether the Chiefs kept him or not, someone might have seen that and said, "I'm going to pay this guy," and now he could be just SOL here. And what an unfortunate thing for a tough break for Byron Pringle.
Blair, speaking of undrafted college free agents, there's a new one in town, or at least will be tomorrow, taking a physical.
Well,
right?
at least
it's a nice segue.
Someone needs to tell the head coach about this because he didn't seem to fully grasp the trade, or said it wasn't official, I guess, is when he was asked about it.
Not sure he was ready for that question.
He wasn't ready for the question.
He was answering a different question when it was asked.
So the trade happens. We think whether it probably pending the physical. And Brooke and Lynn, you guys combined on writing the story. Take us through the trade, and then Sam and I will talk about Parker Anger a little bit, who was dealt by the Chiefs presumably today.
Well, I mean, it seemed like kind of a crazy way that it happened. How do you say his first name? I'm seeing it in my mind.
Charvarius.
Yes.
Ward is his last name.
So he is warming up for the Cowboys preseason game, and I guess finds out during warm-ups that he's been traded. We saw some reports that he was on the field stretching and everything when he learns he's been traded here. He's a guy that had a really strong preseason with the Cowboys. I think he's had 7 tackles so far in the preseason, and from all reports, from all the Cowboys stuff that I was reading, sounded like he had a really good shot to make the 53-man roster there. He gets traded here, and, I mean, you'd think that they're making this trade to put him on the roster, and it really kind of sends that secondary situation into a little bit of flux, because I thought going into it that they would have 5 corners and 5 safeties, but Lynn seems to think, maybe that there's going to be a little bit of wiggle room in that.
Yeah. Just poking my head around, was able to talk to somebody who knows a thing or two, and said that, it's
I like
not,
those guys.
Yeah.
Those
guys
know things or two, yeah.
You gotta pay attention to those guys. But so basically we're all thinking it's going to be 10 defensive backs, 5 corners, 5 safeties, and, that's go from there. But my understanding is with him now in the fold that they think that there's going to be some flexibility. So, and with Sorensen probably going to start the season on IR, they could go with 4 safeties and 6 corners with Ward in that group. And then, knowing that you'll get Sorensen back at some point during the season. Basically, the way it was said to me is, well, they feel like they had the flexibility where who your 5 corners are, and then you have at least 5, and then maybe a 6th, and you could sort of decide whether or not you want to keep an extra corner, an extra safety, knowing that with Ward you have 5, and then there's maybe one person's odd man out, and everybody probably assumes that's David Emerson. Because he's struggled during the preseason. So,
yeah, that was my question. I was going to ask Sam about this because when I asked him about his Chad Henne column, it became the Charvarius Ward column. Does this mean that we David Emerson might be one of the cuts? From
I think it puts him. Yeah, I mean, it puts him on the block, right?
Yeah, and David Bradbury wants to know this as well. Thanks for writing, David.
Well, I believe they'd only lose $1 million, right? It'd be $1 million in dead money.
So, I mean, that was the other thing, is it sort of gives them a little bit of leverage too, where if they wanted to try and
pay cut
ask him to take a little less, then they have the leverage to do that, because now you've got 5 other guys, and he's in this guy's struggle. Yeah. Plus, just as you for them taking the long view, they also look at they got a lot younger at that position just over this offseason, even though obviously people aren't fully happy with what they've got at corner, but you look at it and you say, well, Fuller, Tremont Smith,
Nelson.
And I was gonna say Ward are all guys who are going to be under 25.
Gotcha. Okay.
And then I still think that again, looking at the long view, next year when they actually have a first round draft pick, that's going to be one of the areas that they target. So all of a sudden you're looking at maybe 4 guys going into next year, which is getting ahead of schedule, obviously, but who are going to be young guys at that position.
I mean, Amerson has been, to put it kindly, terrible.
That's the kindly.
After having a training camp where he didn't seem terrible.
Yeah, he seemed okay. He seemed like a veteran.
Yeah.
And I thought it was interesting. You kind of read too much into things sometimes, but when Andy Reid says as little as he says, you kind of have to. And did you guys notice after the game, he said that Amerson is working his way into the scheme or something like that?
Yeah.
It's like the meanest thing Andy Reid has ever said about one of his players,
Well, I mean, was it last week in Chicago, he basically said, he can play it better. He can play better than what he was doing. So it's like,
again, as big an insult as you get publicly from Andy. He can be better.
So, I mean, Amerson, I think there's no doubt that he's sort of the one that's going to be in question. It's just a matter of how they want to play it now. And that addition sort of gives them some options.
And I think in our 53-man roster projections that we put out yesterday, I had cutting Amerson and DB TBD,
right.
and now this is he has been determined.
That's right.
You had the crystal ball.
I did. I'm a person that may know a thing or two, or not, or just really good at guessing.
So, somebody wants to know about Armani Watts' night and how much he might have helped himself. He was always going to be on the team. That was not going to be an issue. But could he find his way into the starting lineup? He was pretty solid tonight. Basically, he was in the right place at the right time. 2 overthrown balls. He made a diving catch for one and then a kind of a leaping catch for another. They were good athletic plays, and that was his reputation at Texas A&M, big play guy. Not always consistent, but a big play guy. And he showed it tonight. It was fun talking to him after the game. He does, he's on the 53. But, look, Eric Berry's going to start, and I think Eric Murray is going to start as well. I don't think Armani Watts moves into the starting lineup, but I think his growth is accelerated a little bit here, especially with Sorensen out.
I like him more than McQuay. And Watts has had
collective groan on that one.
maybe an underrated or underappreciated, but I think Watts has been pretty good for a fourth round rookie. I think they're getting what they paid for.
Well, and it seems like this defense needs help getting the takeaways. That they hadn't really created many turnovers at all during the preseason, and then tonight they have 3, and Armani Watts has 2 of them.
Right.
That's huge. I mean, who knows how he'll actually do against, playing against the ones and a real game that actually matters. But if there's, if this defense is struggling to kind of manufacture some of those, I think that he has a much better shot of getting on the field than some of the other guys on the roster.
Patrick Lynch wants to know if anybody played their way onto the team tonight. I don't know. We talked about this. I think teams go into training camp with their 53, and then they allow themselves to be open-minded a little bit. I say the same thing about training camp in baseball. Teams go to training camp in baseball knowing who their 25-man, what the 25-man roster is. I think the Chiefs and every NFL team goes to training camp knowing who they think the 53-man is, and then someone like a Ben Neiman comes around and gives them something to think about. Mm-hmm. People have asked about Neiman and how it might affect that position. Is Terrence Smith perhaps the odd man out? I think that's a possibility.
Yeah, I think not tonight, but I think that Neiman and Traymon Smith over the course of the offseason have played their way onto the 53. I don't think after the draft or whatever, those would be 2 guys. Well, certainly not after the draft, but you know what I mean? That those would have been 2 guys entering the offseason period that you would have expected to be on the 53. But I think over the course of it, they've earned it for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't think anybody tonight solidified it. Or shifted the mind. Meaning, probably more likely, maybe somebody tonight might have given themselves that little extra oomph to maybe get on the practice squad or something like that. But I think the 53-man is a different beast. And I think when you're talking about Neiman, I think we sort of had that idea with Neiman before we got to this week. I mean, that he might get onto the roster and just between, and obviously it's more than just these 4 preseason games too. There's camp, and you could see things with Neiman that made you think, okay, he might be in the mix here.
See, I kind of think that maybe Darrell Williams may have played himself into a roster spot. I think both of us had projected him to be a practice squad guy, but I think a lot depends on Damian Williams' health, although he looked fine out there tonight. I know he's had a shoulder thing, but Spencer Ware, we did see him in Chicago, but he looked good. But Andy also said that a lot of figuring out his role and what they were going to do with that position would depend on how he felt after that game. So we haven't gotten an update on that yet. So if Spencer Ware is still not 100% or not at a percentage high enough to play the way they want him to, I could see them using, if they only keep two quarterbacks, put one on the practice squad, using that extra positional spot and the running backs and giving that to Darrell Williams.
So I think we're in agreement that it's tough to play your way on to the 53, but I do think David Amerson may have played his way off.
Yeah.
Seriously, I think he has.
Yeah.
It's been too brutal. The games have been too brutal. Starting with the very first game, first series of the first preseason game, we picked up the 2 penalties. Remember that?
Yeah.
So we'll see. We'll see.
And that's a bad miss too, if that's the way this goes. And look, like, you should never keep a guy because you don't want to admit a mistake, right? But that's a bad miss because they were betting that they could change him, that they could bring out all the good that he had shown 2-3 years ago or whatever it was, and that the bad was the Raiders and all this other stuff, and it's just continued to go downhill.
Well, I guess the question is there a fifth safety that you feel like you need to have one there? Because if there's not a fifth guy that you're like, he showed enough that we need to keep him, then you still might keep Amerson, because he's an experienced guy, he's a veteran. I mean, and you have 2 guys between Trayvon Smith and Ward now who are still rookies, who are came from small schools, are still developmental guys. So maybe unless you have that fifth guy, with Sorensen going to be on IR at the safety spot, then you still might keep Amerson around just for the time being.
Yeah. All right, so let's before, as we wrap it up, let's talk about what's going to happen here in the next 36 hours, right? Later today, the players will start to know. They'll be told whether they're on the roster or not. And the NFL teams have until 3:00 Central on Saturday to post their rosters, basically. And but players will know before then, and the word gets out, news gets out about who's made it, who hasn't made it, and we want you to follow KansasCity.com because we'll have a cut tracker on KansasCity.com starting sometime tomorrow. I'd say look for it around noon or so, maybe even earlier. But go to KansasCity.com and follow the cut tracker. We'll be keeping up with all the news that comes out of Arrowhead Stadium starting Friday afternoon, and there'll be a lot of it. And not only that, you've got that going on Friday, the announcement on Saturday, and then the practice squad will emerge there as well. And just like tonight, where the Chiefs picked up a defensive back, a cornerback, there could be more wheeling and dealing here with the Chiefs and all NFL teams in the next 48 hours or so. So, what's are there any big mysteries on the 53? Anything that third quarterback is uncertain?
Yeah.
But let's vote here. Who's it going to be? Who do you think it's going to be?
I'd keep Litton. I just think there's more potential there, more upside.
Brooke?
Lynn.
I still think that you could keep McGloin and then get Litton on the practice squad. So
I'm with Lynn on this. I think it's McGloin with Linton on the practice squad as well. So we win. How about the inside linebacker? If they keep 5 and Ragland, Hitchens, let's say Eligwe, and Dorian O'Daniel. Mm-hmm. So if it comes down to Neiman, Terrence Smith, what do you do?
I feel like I've seen more from Neiman. That'd be my guy.
Yeah, I'm with you.
And am I right? It's Terrence Smith. Smith didn't. I don't know if he played tonight or didn't play much. We'll have to look at the participation.
I would go
right now.
Yeah, I would go Neiman, and I think the way you broke it down. I feel like Dorian O'Daniel, they sort of had from the time they drafted him sort of a role that they had in mind, whether it's in sub packages and playing more coverage. I feel like they want him for a specific role. He's a rookie. They drafted him. Eligwe, I think they still feel like there's some upside there in athleticism, and he's a year younger than Smith. And Neiman sort of has played himself throughout camp, not just in a single game, into a spot, I think.
Right. So, to backtrack on something I said earlier, you don't play your way into the 53 man. I think Ben Neiman did play his way on the 53,
but not tonight.
Yeah, no, not tonight. Throughout training camp, we saw it back in July in St. Joe, and then through the games, the pick six he had in Atlanta was a really nice play, and he just always seems to be around the ball and showed a lot of hustle.
Terrence Smith did not play tonight.
Did not play.
No, did not play.
So I don't know what that means. I don't know if it means that he's got a spot secure. We don't need to see any more of him.
It's a hard no.
Or hard right.
It's so much of a no. We're not even going to give you a chance.
All right, let's bring this thing in for a landing. Fourth preseason game, the Chiefs did win it. I checked the paper. They did win the game to finish the preseason 2-2. I think they finish every preseason 2-2. And in 9-10 days, they opened the season against the Los Angeles Chargers in L.A. We'll talk to you again before that game and talk about that game specifically. But how about just putting a bow on training camp, preseason? Lynn, we'll start with you. What are your kind of impressions about this team? I'll start by saying I felt more confident about this team a year ago going into the season, the way I saw them perform in preseason football than I did this year. Tonight's game was meaningless in terms of making a judgment or a value on this team. I just didn't like the way the starters played when we saw them on the field for 3 weeks.
I'd say offensively, the thing I feel like this is just going to be an offense that's going to have to progress throughout the season because you have such a young quarterback. You got some new parts. I mean, I think we'll see the moments from Patrick Mahomes. Like the big touchdown that he threw in Atlanta and those sorts of things. But I think we'll also see the moments like we saw in Atlanta where he just threw it up for grabs and you're like, what was that? Or the one that should have got intercepted in the end zone. I mean, not necessarily those specific plays, but I think there'll be things that growing pains as it goes along. And I still don't know what we're going to see from the defense. Like I'm convinced that they'll be better against the run, but I don't know what it's going to look like against the pass.
We also haven't, speaking against defense against the run, we haven't seen Xavier Williams in 2 games too, and it makes you wonder a little bit about that. We were told he had stingers, which is why he didn't play in Chicago. Maybe he doesn't play tonight because he's a starter, but still hasn't played for 2 weeks.
Right, exactly. And building off of what Lynn said, I mean, I think that my biggest takeaway from camp, from these preseason games, is that this offense is not, it's not ready-made right now, that it is going to have to kind of grow throughout the season because, I'm not, somebody asked me in a Twitter Q&A if I was less concerned about Patrick Mahomes' interceptions in camp given the way he played in the preseason. I said, well, I was never concerned over the interceptions. I'm not concerned about a new guy throwing those, knowing what Andy Reid said early on, hey, we're going to test this out. I think a lot of this season is going to be a test. They're not going to want to have it going through these growing pains as often as they're going to, but I think that it's going to be high powered at times, and at other times it's going to get kind of clunky, and there's going to be some interceptions and some what in the world was that. But that's just how it goes when you have a young quarterback, and defensively it's going to be a work in progress. Also, just they're starting from a much lower point.
What do you think, Sam?
Yeah, I think the exact same thing about this team now that I thought before training camp started, only more so. You know what I mean? Like, I think the offense is going to be – I think they're going to score points. They're going to be really inconsistent, but I think they're going to score points. And the defense, I'm just more concerned about than I thought I was going to be. And I say that as somebody that thought Bob Sutton should have been fired after last year and that they traded away their best playmaker. It's, there's not that many surprises. Ben Neiman, I guess, would be kind of the biggest surprise.
Yeah, we're not talking about a difference-making type of player.
Exactly. I mean, they could be a wildly entertaining 8-18.
Eric Berry's going to make all the difference. And I'm just shocked that nobody else sees that. Actually, he will hopefully make a difference for the
He's a really good player, yeah. I don't think anybody's minimizing that.
Right.
He's a really good player, but, he's not Superman. He's not.
No. But we still haven't seen this team with him on the field in the preseason at all, with Justin Houston on for more than – 2 series, D Ford on the other side, and then the whole Hitchens-Ragland relationship needs to blossom, and that hasn't happened yet. I'm really kind of bullish on Anthony Hitchens. I just think he's a solid player, and will be will be really good for the Chiefs this year. So we'll see. Okay, we leave tonight. My last concern is for Brooke's apartment. She left a candle burning in her apartment. It's now.
They could be watching this, and they know it's in my lease, so it shouldn't be happening.
Right. So we need to wrap this up so Brooke can get back to her apartment to see if it's still there.
And go retrieve my engagement ring that is in there and hopefully not burned up.
All right. So for Sam, Brooke, Lynn, I'm Blair. Thanks for tuning in. Follow the coverage of the Chiefs and the Kansas City Star and online at kansascity.com.